Too big of a hole, right? G'day folks, it's DIY Guy 123 here. Today I'm bringing you another do-it-yourself video. See this pipe right here? This is corrugated pipe, which means it's crinkly like a piece of corrugated cardboard, and it has holes in it, and that means it's corrugated perforated pipe. So this is drain pipe that allows water to get in or water to get out. I need about 20 feet of that, and what I happen to have is a scrap piece, 20 feet, but it's the same thing except solid pipe. Sorry, it's corrugated, but it's non-perforated. I should not have used the word solid. Solid pipe is something that you can't flex easily. So, rather than me not being able to use what I have and having to make a trip to the hardware store, I'm going to attempt to turn this non-perforated pipe into perforated pipe. Now, I know that this pipe right here has little tiny pinholes every so often. That's fine. That allows, you know, keep stones and stuff like that out. But when you buy solid pipe that doesn't flex like this, solid pipe that has holes in it, the holes are about as big around as my thumb. So it's not required that the holes are actually this small, but something I'll point out is this pipe has those holes around the whole circumference of the pipe. They're very tiny holes and they're on the whole circumference. The solid pipe with the holes only has 2 rows of holes, and they're not on opposite sides of the pipe. They're at like 430 and like 730. There's not one row underneath the bottom. You want 2 rows, and they're just on either side of the very bottom of the pipe. You don't put that pipe up like this with the holes on the top, because those holes are big enough for rocks and pebbles and so on to get in and then fill up your pipe. So you want it upside down so that the water will go up and the rocks won't go up. I've got an oxygen acetylene torch here, but you could do the same thing with a propane torch. Often in my YouTube videos I've done this before, it's on something before, and I want to show what I've learned. In this case, I've never done it before. Now that's too big of a flame and the hole would be too big. So if you add oxygen to it, the oxygen makes the flame smaller. Let's see what happens. Too big of a hole, right? Yeah. Okay. So I've learned this catches on fire. Okay, so that was a failed experiment. Okay, so next method is with soldering iron. Now this is a 100-watt soldering iron, and it's got a bit of a fragile tip. I wish it, and for this application, I wish it just had a solid tip. But anyway, heat it up hot, and it does melt through. It's not quite hot yet. It does melt through. You don't want to burn the smoke that's coming off of this, because that's not good for you. And so you can do this. This is a bit time consuming. But I have another idea I'm going to try here in a sec.
You look like a scientist the way you're doing like trials.
Yeah, I normally show like, hey, this is the best way to do something. Well, I'll admit this today I don't know the best way.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's a section of pipe. These holes aren't quite as big as what you'd find in solid pipe. They're bigger than the holes you'd feel in the corrugated pipe with holes. I think this might take a while, so I'm not sure this is the best approach. I'll try something else. Okay, so this next approach is definitely hearing protection and eye protection type of job. So I've got a regular angle grinder here with a cutting disc, and I'm going to cut through the high ribs, but not the low ribs. If I cut through the low ribs, I'd basically be cutting the pipe, you know, lengthwise this way, and I don't want to do that because you'd lose the strength. But if I just cut the high ribs, that's probably enough for water to get in. Let's see. All right. That's the method right there that we're going to be using. Look at those holes. So they're right through on all the high ribs, but didn't touch the low ribs. Okay, so here we are 10 minutes later, and I've learned a few things about this. I've got a helper with me here today, and I want to see if he knows why I feel this might, there is a downside to doing it this way. What have I done to the pipe? So he's going to think about that while I carry on. But while I continue to explain what I did here, in the video I was showing the angle iron perpendicular, or the angle grinder perpendicular to the pipe, but these raised ribs are the ones that support the pipe. So when you put the pipe down on the ground, it's the raised ribs that touch the ground. The recessed ribs are not touching the ground. So in theory, you'd rather have the recessed ribs with the holes in them, and that's what the factory perforated pipe comes with, not the outer rib, but the inner rib that's got the hole in it. So I can't really do that here. So what I did was, instead of the grinder blade like this, or the cutting blade like this, I turned it on quite a steep angle and I'd cut in. So now it's been about 30 seconds. What does my helper think was the downside about doing this?
Squish like a Bakugan.
Right, so we have reduced the structural integrity of this pipe. Now this kind of pipe is not nearly as strong as solid pipe. It is flexible, but basically you could stand on it, and if you're careful, it would support your whole weight without crushing. However, now that I've done this a couple times, I went through even the inner ribs right here, and watch, I can collapse that. So, you know, I probably wouldn't recommend this method for a critical application like around your basement foundation, but what I'm using this for is to drain a field. And, you know, if the pipe crushes, well, there's no pipe there now. And so whatever I put down is an improvement. The other thing that I didn't mention earlier is, when I lay this pipe down, I'm going to be laying logs beside it in the trench. I've got a bunch of logs that I want rid of. And so I'm going to drop a log down, and I'm going to drop say an 8-inch diameter log on either side of the pipe. And so that will support the pipe from getting crushed. So I'm really not concerned about it from that perspective, but just point this out for anybody who thinks about doing this around a critical area. I don't think I would recommend it, just because the pipe is more likely to crush if you go through those inner ribs, which I did in a couple of spots. However, I've got 25 feet of pipe that wasn't of any use to me, and I can now use it for my application and save going to the store and buying it. Good luck if you do it yourself projects. If you like my videos, please subscribe. The end.